Coming up on the Hacker Show, intercepting requests, responses, and XHR with CDP, the Chrome Devtools Protocol. Modifying requests using a method called cdp.fetch.continueRequest. Controlling browsers via the remote debugging port. Bypassing CAPTCHAs and anti-bot defenses. And live demos of all the above with Python. Get ready for some serious hacking. Welcome to Hacking Websites with CDP, the Chrome Devtools Protocol, and we're going to be using CDP for lots of things, such as in the screenshot example here, we'll be using fetch.continueRequest, which lets you modify requests and change websites, like you see here. We'll get to that shortly. So the Chrome Devtools Protocol is the key to communicating with Chrome, and it can be used for various things such as debugging, etc. It's very powerful, and if you're coming from Microsoft Edge World, there's a slight name change on that. It's called the Microsoft Edge DevTools Protocol, but it is the same Chrome DevTools Protocol as it says in the documentation. It matches the APIs of the Chrome DevTools Protocol. So same thing, different name if you're coming from Edge. And this, of course, is the follow-up to my previous video, Undetectable Automation for the Chrome DevTools Protocol, where basically I showcased how to bypass various CAPTCHAs and anti-bot defenses with CDP, the Chrome DevTools Protocol. So it's pretty powerful, and it can be used for a lot more than that. And the examples in that video were using a framework I created called SeleniumBase, specifically the CDP mode inside of there, which if you go to the SeleniumBase GitHub page, you'll see that there is a CDP mode section. And that, of course, became SeleniumBase's most popular feature as it became trending on Hacker News shortly after I posted a link to that. SeleniumBase, Python APIs for web automation and bypassing bot detection, and that received 177 points. So yeah, the people on Hacker News were impressed. And they were so impressed that actually the GitHub star history showed a parabolic trend right in December 2024. It's still December, by the way, if you're watching this after that. But essentially, lots of people came and starred the repo, and then it became trending on GitHub, becoming the most popular GitHub repo in any programming language for the month of December, gaining thousands of GitHub stars, all in a very short period of time. So the framework became quite popular. And the Chrome DevTools Protocol is the key to doing all the fancy things that I'll be showing you today. So for instance, there's fetch.continueRequest, which lets you continue a request made to the web browser where you can optionally modify some of its parameters, such as the URL, the post data, the headers, etc., so that you can get different content appearing inside your web browser than what was actually delivered to the web browser. In order to access the CDP APIs, we're going to be using one of my Python repos, myCDP, which basically translates Python APIs into the CDP APIs. You'll see here Python method with the same arguments that the CDP methods would have, but it's all in Python. And we're going to be accessing that method from SeleniumBase CDP mode. So here's an example here where we import myCDP, and then from SeleniumBase import SB. It's pretty much all the imports you'll need. And then in this async example here, we're going to create a method that basically captures all images that appear going into the web browser, and then it's going to make a modification. So instead of having the URL that it had, we're going to give it a new URL, and then we're going to do we're going to call tab.feedCDP with mycdp.fetch.continueRequest using the request ID and the newer URL, and that's going to basically change the data. We're going to be using a few terms here that you might not be familiar with already. For instance, XHR, which stands for XML HTTP request, which is used for interacting with servers and basically allows you to change the data on a web page after it has already loaded. Another important term that we'll be talking about today is the remote debugging port. Now, this is a special option feature of Chrome where basically you can use the remote debugging port in order to take control of an existing Chrome browser that's already open. By take control, I mean like totally hijack the Chrome browser if you know the IP address and the remote debugging port, and you have the permissions to access it. It's quite a powerful feature, and it already exists in Chrome. Let's get to the fun part where we're going to be showing off some live demos. And of course, if you're a fan of the movie Hackers, there's going to be a lot of awesome hacking involved, and all this code is available open source on GitHub so that you can try out these examples for yourself after you've seen me run through them right now. So let's get to that. For the first example that I'll be demonstrating here, we're going to be using a website called Getty Images, which basically lets you purchase high-quality printouts of images from various events and conferences. So here we've got a simple, Getty Images search, and we can easily perform that with the SeleniumBase framework. So if we do Python raw Getty Images, we're going to go to that exact URL by doing the full search for it, Comic-Con 2024 sci-fi panel. You're going to see the images, and now we're just going to paint a green dot on all the images just for fun. If you're wondering what that script looks like, we can just go open raw gettyimages.py, and you can see that we're going to activate CDP mode with that URL. Also, this line here, if you're not familiar with it, we're going to set UC mode to true. We're going to make it a test. We're going to set the locale code to EN in case different countries see different things. We're going to set the page load strategy to none so that there's no extra delays. And that's, of course, after importing SB from SeleniumBase. Then once we've activated CDP mode, we're going to click the editorial button and then press keys where basically types text at a slow rate. So Comic-Con 2024 sci-fi panel, and then the \n is just to hit return. And then we're going to find all the elements on the page, which are the images, and then loop through them, and then flash, the element, basically meaning that you're going to paint a green dot, and then we're going to sleep for a short amount of time so that we can see it all happen. So that's the test we just ran. For the next one, we're going to be using this search here, Jonathan Frakes Cast 2022, which shows Jonathan Frakes and a lot of Star Trek actors, but we're going to be using the CDP methods in order to modify those requests that come in so that the images change to something else. So if we call Python raw rec mod.py and then just run that, we're going to do that same search, but now you see all the images have been replaced by a photo of me at Comic-Con with my wife and Jonathan Frakes. So if you want to see what that one looked like, we can do open raw rec mod.py, and we're just going to go through all the code there. So after importing my CDP so that we can perform advanced CDP calls, we're going to call from SeleniumBase import SB, and then we're creating an async method, request paused handler, which takes the event and the tab, and then we're going to get a few things from there, and then see all the images that are appearing by going to capture all the images and then modify them. So we can use, after setting the new URL, so for here, that's the photo of me at Comic-Con, we're then going to call tab.feedCDP with mycdp.fetch.continue request with the request ID and the new URL, and that's going to make all the images change to that URL. And here's the SeleniumBase code that called it. We're going to call the SeleniumBase context manager. We're going to activate CDP mode. We're going to add the handler, so sb.cdp.addHandler with mycdp.fetch.requestPaused with the request paused handler that we defined above here. And we're going to open the URL, and then after it automatically goes through with the async call and it modifies the images. We're then going to change the size of the images so that they're all the same size. That is the code that you saw there. I'll run it one more time. Python raw rec mod.py. Here we go. The Jonathan Frakes cast 2022 photo, and all these images have been modified, as you can see there. That's pretty cool. You can see that is not what appeared on the original site, but we did modify all the images so that instead of what you should get, you get that image seen right here. So pretty cool. So that is just a simple example of modifying requests. All right, so for the next tutorial, we're going to be taking control of existing Chrome browsers using the remote debugging port. So for that, we're going to call, say, Python, test null.py with UC mode, and then we're going to add -- trace so that it sets up the Python debugger right there so it doesn't close the browser window. And then in a separate browser window, we're going to call, let's say, Python control.py so that it basically takes over that existing Chrome browser using the remote debugging port and changes the website and prints out the new page title that appears there. As you can see there, CDP mode SeleniumBase docs. If you want to see what that code looks like, let's go there and take a look. So if we go open control.py, you can see that we called an async method where we set the host and the remote debugging port, and 9222 is the default remote debugging port for UC mode if you're not setting one. So we just go in, we change the URL that you're on, you print out the document.title there. So that is using an async method. We can also do the same thing using a less async approach. So if we do Python control2.py, we're going to go in and modify the page again and do the same thing. If you want to see what that looks like, open control2.py. You can see here it's no longer using an async method, but we're still using the asyncio library. We're still setting, the host and the remote debugging port in a different way, but we're setting things up so that you can still take control of the existing browser so you can do fun things there. If you're wondering where that code comes from, you should go to the SeleniumBase GitHub page and do a search for issue 3354, where basically someone was wondering how to take control of an existing Chrome browser with the remote debugging address. And I showed multiple examples here, which I just ran here. Here's the one that uses an async method. Here's the way that basically changes it a bit so that we're using loop.runUntilComplete in order to basically call async stuff from a non-async context. And then here's the simplified SB CDP sync format, which still uses async IO, but it basically simplifies what you need to do in order to take control of the existing Chrome browser, assuming you know the remote debugging port. So that's that example there. And of course, if you're wondering about the format for that, you can click in here and you can see all the syntax formats in the, there's a SeleniumBase page right here. There's 25 syntax formats, basically design patterns where you can structure your tests a different way. And here's an example of calling the CDP driver with the non-Selenium browser. Many of the examples will just use the simple SB context manager. That you can find as syntax format number 21, SeleniumBase SB, the Python context manager, and you can call CDP methods from there by activating CDP mode first. Let's move on to another example where we're going to do some simple web scraping. So let's go to the CDP mode area and let's call Python raw theaters so that we can go to a website that has a little bit of anti-bot detection there and essentially we're going to scrape the data from all the ancient Roman theaters that are all around the world, and then, basically to show that scraping a website. So here we go. Top 30 ancient Roman theaters. You'll see that they're just all over the Mediterranean area, Spain, France, Turkey. You've got like Athens, Greece. You've got Caesarea, Israel. You've got other places in Italy, etc. There's just so many places where the Romans took over during those ancient times, but that's scraping data. If you want to see the script for that, let's go open raw theaters. Let's see that. And here we go. From SeleniumBase import SB. With SB, use equals true, test equals true, locale code equals en, and then we're going to set ad blocking to true so that we can get rid of like the ad content that appears there. Then we're going to set the URL, activate CDP mode. We're going to click a pop-up that appears, and then we're going to loop through all the elements that are there and essentially go through and basically paint a green dot on the text on the page, and we're also going to print that text out so that you can see it right here. So that's just a quick example of simple web scraping. For the next live demo tutorial, let's jump into XHR land, where we're going to be capturing XHR requests that appear from server requests. So let's do Python raw XHR sb.py. We're going to go into the Microsoft Learn website, and there's a lot of XHR that's going to be appearing there. And you can see if you scroll up, here's the XHR request URL, and then the XHR response body. So there's just tons of data that isn't normally seen on a website, but you can easily pick it up just by capturing the XHR requests and then making the call, and then all of a sudden you got all that data. So for instance, here you'll see there's browser.events.data.microsoft.com/onecollector. That's basically their analytics software where they're collecting, certain data from the visitor. If you're wondering what that looks like, we can open it. We can go Python raw XHR sb.py, and you can see here we've got a bunch of different imports that we're using this time, but we're going to basically create the async handler method so that we can capture all those requests, and another one where we can receive the XHR, and we're going to basically go through after we've captured things and print out the data that you see here. So that's just a very fancy example of printing out the XHR requests that come into the browser. And there's also an async way of doing the same thing. It's mostly the same, but there's going to be more async calls involved, but slightly different amount. So here we add the non-async version, and then when we called it here, we're creating the event loop. So we're using a little more asyncio, but essentially there's a difference here. And let's call that method, raw rec async. Let's call that test. So let's do Python raw rec async. Oh, I think I went to a totally different example than I thought I was going to do, but let's run it anyway because we just looked at it. Oh, here we go. Here's an example where we're blocking the requests that are coming in instead of changing the images. Okay, I mixed up the examples I had. I have a lot of tabs open, but we'll still get to the example I was going to show. But essentially, in this example here, we're actually going through and we're going to block all the images that appear. So unlike the earlier example where we modified the images, we're just going to call mycdp.fetch.failRequest with a timeout and then block every single image that appears on that website. So you can see here it blocked this URL, it blocked that one, etc. and it showed how long the test ran for. So if we go to the actual website itself, you'll be able to see that it's actually, these are the images you would normally see. A lot of Nathan Fillion, you know, star of Firefly, Castle, The Rookie, other shows like that. And when we run that example here, you can see that we're going to block all the images just like that. So CDP is quite powerful in letting you take control and modify various things. I think the example I was going to show you earlier was this one, Python, let's see, raw XHR async. Oh, here we go. So here's another async capture of XHR requests. That's a different example. That also is similar to the raw XHR SB, but instead of the non-async call we do here, we are going to call it from an async def crawl method coming from the main. Here we go, we're going to do the event loop for crawl. Let's run that there. It's going to be the Microsoft Learn site again. So let's do Python raw xhr async.py. And here we go. It's going to go through, it's going to scroll through it again, and after it finishes scrolling, it's going to print out those XHR request URLs with the response body. So yeah, that is capturing XHR requests. And since we're already going through the examples in the CDP mode folder, there are some other good ones that you might be interested in seeing, such as, let's see, Python raw social blade, which basically is an example of bypassing a Cloudflare CAPTCHA and then scraping a lot of YouTube data from my YouTube channel. And oh wow, we've got a lot of views already. 99,000 views already for my videos, getting close to the big 100K. And here we go, we've got my Social Blade rank, subscriber rank. Yeah, hopefully these numbers go up after I publish a few more videos like the one I am doing right now. So let's do a few more fun things. Let's go do an example where we do a let's do a Walmart search. That should be fun. Here we go. We're going to do a search for, let's see, Settlers of Catan board game. I think we actually did this same example from my last YouTube video, but it's a fun one. We did some simple web scraping by going to the website and getting all the items. If you want to see what that looks like, open raw walmart.com. And here's the code there. You can look through it at your own time because it'll be on the SeleniumBase GitHub page. But I think one of my newer examples was Kohl's. I don't think I demoed that last time. So let's do Python raw kohls.py. And let's see, let's do a search for Mickey Mouse 100 Friends Teal Pillow. Okay, here we go. Bunch of Mickey Mouse pillows. As you can see there, we're gonna scroll through and loop through. So there's a bunch of stuff. And after we've gotten through all that, we're going to print all those out just to demo that web scraping happened. So you can see here in the output, all these various Mickey Mouse pillows. So yeah, that is web scraping. And of course, you'll be able to find all these examples from the SeleniumBase GitHub page. Just go to the examples folder once you've gotten there, and then click on CDP mode. And from there, you'll just find all these examples so that you can practice hacking on your own time and learn how all of it works. There's a lot there. Definitely check it out. It's pretty cool. That is SeleniumBase. And of course, don't forget, SeleniumBase CDP mode has a lot of instructions. There's the first video that came out, and I'm sure the next one will appear there soon. And it'll have all these code examples that you can learn from so that you can figure out how to automate and web scrape and bypass CAPTCHAs and use CDP for modifying requests and capturing XHR, etc. It's very powerful, and have fun with that. And that pretty much concludes this tutorial. I hope you have a great 2025 because today is December 31st and New Year's Eve is tonight here. So yeah, have a happy New Year. But by the time you watch this, it'll probably most certainly be 2025. Check out the tutorials on the SeleniumBase GitHub page, and I'll see you all later.